Most people never unlock the real power of Copilot. And interestingly, it usually isn't because they lack technical skills or don't know enough about AI. It's because of the way they talk to it. The quality of what Copilot gives you is heavily influenced by the quality of what you give it. If your instruction is vague, the response will usually be vague too. Not wrong, not necessarily bad, just generic and forgettable. But when you become more specific about what you're trying to achieve, the quality of the output changes dramatically. Let's look at a simple example. Imagine you type, "Write an email." Copilot will happily write one. The result will probably be grammatically correct, professional enough, and perfectly usable. But it will also be generic because it has very little to work with. It doesn't know who the email is for, why you're writing it, what tone you want to strike, or what outcome you're hoping for. Now compare that with something more specific. Draft a professional email to a client explaining a delayed project delivery. Be empathetic, concise, and propose next steps. With just a few extra details, you've completely changed the situation. Copilot now understands the audience, the purpose of the communication, the tone that is needed, and the result you're trying to achieve. Because the instruction is clearer, the response becomes far more useful. And that's an important principle to remember. Better prompts don't necessarily mean longer prompts, they mean clearer prompts. One simple way to achieve that clarity is by using a framework built around 4 elements: role, task, context, and format. Think of it as giving Copilot the information it needs before it starts working. First, tell it the role you want it to adopt, then define the task. Provide the context that will help it understand the situation, and finally, specify the format you want the answer delivered in. For example, act as a COO, summarize this project update, focus on risks and business impact, present it as an executive briefing. That single prompt immediately gives Copilot far more direction. It knows who it's supposed to think like, what information matters most, and how the final response should be structured. Instead of guessing what a good answer might look like, it can focus on producing the kind of answer you're actually looking for. But there's one more secret that experienced Copilot users discover fairly quickly. Good prompting is a conversation. The magic does not always happen in the first prompt. It happens in refinement. Many people treat prompting as a one-time transaction. They ask a question, receive an answer, and move on. The strongest results usually emerge through a series of small improvements, each one bringing the output closer to what they actually need. That's why it helps to think of prompting less as issuing a command and more as having a conversation. Once Copilot generates a first draft, you can guide it further. Each instruction builds on the previous one. The response becomes more focused, more relevant, and more aligned with what you actually need. In many cases, that iterative process is where the real value appears. So don't feel pressure to create the perfect prompt on the first attempt. Start with a clear instruction, review the response, and then refine it. That's often how the strongest results are produced. Ultimately, the easiest way to think about Copilot is this. Don't think of it as software. Think of it as a highly capable employee. If you gave a colleague a vague instruction, you'd expect a fairly average result. If you explained the objective, provided context, clarified expectations, and worked with them to refine the outcome, you'd almost certainly get something better. Copilot works much the same way. The more clearly you communicate your intent, the more effectively it can help you achieve it. And that's the real secret to getting brilliant results.